Evening. Good evening. I still hear some back feed. I don't know if you want to turn everybody off or ask everybody to turn off their microphones. Mark, I think your microphone is still on. You might want to turn it off.
I don't have a microphone hooked up.
Hold on.
Yeah, I think.
I just muted. He should be.
Good. All right, very good. Well, good evening. I'm Jonathan Wall, chair of the Sierra Club Hunterdon Warren Group and chair of the newly established Light Pollution and Night Skies Committee. Tonight's presentation is being co-hosted by this Central Jersey group. And I just want to say a special thank you for Central Jersey because they've contributed to the Zoom call tonight, because when we have extra people, it costs us extra money, which is just a reminder to folks to keep us in mind when you're making donations. If you want to make a donation specifically to the group, you write the group's name on your check. So you write whatever amount you'd like to donate, and then you write Hunterdon Warren Group in the memo or Central Jersey in the memo. And this way we can continue to provide these services for the public. Okay. As a reminder, please keep your microphones on mute. And if you have any questions, please place them in the chat and we'll try to get to them later. Before I introduce our speaker, I just want to announce a few upcoming events. On Thursday, April 21st at 6 p.m., Congressman Tom Malinowski will be joining us for a virtual environmental town hall. Malinowski has been a strong champion on the environment and in particular public lands issues. And you can register for the event and propose a question on the link in our calendar. On Wednesday, May 4th at 7:30, we have a meeting we're calling the Power of Together. This is a great meeting to understand more about the Sierra Club, as well as to meet our new chapter director, Angeli Ramos. She'll be on hand to speak, and we'll have, and our group will give an overview of the things we do and what issues we are working on. If you're thinking about how you could do more for the environment, this is the meeting for you. So tell your neighbors and friends, they're welcome to listen in as well. Also some good news. It looks like the National Sierra Club will be permitting us to hold meetings in person again, perhaps later in the summer and the fall. We'd like to have the flexibility of Zoom to provide so we can get speakers that can't be with us in person, such as our speaker tonight. So we're probably gonna have a combination of both heading into the future. As I mentioned earlier, the New Jersey chapter recently formed a Light Pollution and Night Skies Committee. Our mission is to educate the public and our elected officials on the impacts of light pollution on wildlife, night skies, and human health, and work with municipalities and state legislatures to enact laws to help curb light pollution. You know, they did a study where about 1/3 of the public lighting is wasted. It costs an extraordinary amount of sum each year, and to replace the amount of energy that's squandered, you'd require to plant about 600 million trees a year, which seems like, to me, extraordinary. So if you could turn off the light and get your neighbor to turn off the light and start talking about how we can get these street lights to be on more of a controlled basis. We can turn them on brighter when need be and turn them down when they don't need to be. That'll be a big step in the direction. So I'm excited to introduce our speaker tonight, Deanne Turnshek. Deanne is joining us from Pittsburgh, where she was instrumental in getting the city to adopt a dark sky ordinance. Deanne Turnshek is a lecturer in the Department of Physics at Carnegie Mellon University and an adjunct member in the Department of Physics and Astronomy at the University of Pittsburgh. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Diane. Welcome, Diane.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I would love to just talk for a minute with everybody here, and thank you so much for coming. The story that I have about how I got into light pollution mitigation is probably not like anyone else's. I was an astronomer, got through grad school, and then started having a whole bunch of children. And so I didn't work. I couldn't work with that many so close together. And by the time I went back to work, when they were, off in college, I had not looked up at the sky for so long that I was shocked that I couldn't see stars where I was. And I went out west, and oh my goodness, the stars were amazing. And I'd forgotten what they looked like because it had been decades. And I pledged right then and there that everybody should see this, and I'm going to make it happen. So I had to learn a few things about not only actual light pollution, human health, habitat loss, and the way that light at night affects plants and animals. I had to learn about how to talk to politicians and how to start groups and how to advocate, and how, it just went on and on and on. And I realized that as an astronomer, I need to do research. I need to publish papers. So that was an extra thing on top of everything else. And so what I'm going to present for you tonight is kind of a mishmash of lots of things. And the takeaway is you have your own path. Everybody has their own path of discovery here. And it's an interesting, complicated scenario. So let me start sharing. Are we good? I'm going to go, if I go to presenter view, does that work? And you can only see the one
Yep.
slide. We know the issues. Okay. So here we are, New Jersey. You think it was a lost cause. It is not. There have been papers, scientific papers published recently that say, if you light correctly, you can make incredible strides in getting the skies to be darker. So what we want to see, obviously, is a star sky full of stars, Milky Way shining so brightly it casts a shadow on the ground. And the dust lanes through the middle, because we're looking at the edge of our galaxy here. You'd see the bright stars, hundreds of billions of stars make up the galaxy. We can only see maybe 6,000 from a dark night, but I want everybody to see this. And how do students get into STEM when they can't see this? This is half of everything, right? There's the ground and the sky. Equal parts, the sky should attract you as much as everything on the planet does. It is our right, our natural right to starlight for everyone on the planet, and hardly anyone gets to see it. 80% of the people live in cities and can't see this. So the goal is to educate people, is simply to talk. Almost all of light pollution efforts are just education, because once someone sees, then they can't unsee it. In this particular picture, the lights that are shining like bright stars are unshielded. Those are the old-fashioned high-pressure sodium vapor lights. They look amber colored, which is kind of a warm, friendly feeling, but they're not shielded. So they're just spreading their light straight up in people's windows, glaring for drivers and pedestrians. Whereas the ones on the left, those are shielded LEDs, and yet they're too blue-white daylight colored. So they're shielded, they're going down where you want to light the roadway, but they're still not right. So in Pittsburgh, we're about to change all our street lights. We haven't done it yet, but it's on the table. The reason why we don't want the light to go up is if it goes up, it scatters off particles and molecules in the atmosphere and can go everywhere, just scatters everywhere over mountains and great distances. This is Las Vegas. And I don't know if you're looking on a phone, you won't be able to see the Luxor beam, but I have a big monitor here and I can see it going straight up. That's from space, that's the brightest pixel on the planet, the brightest little tiny spot on the planet. Hundreds of miles away, you see Las Vegas. When you're out in the desert where there's nothing else and you should have a gorgeous sky, you can't because light scatters. And you know what? Blue light scatters more easily than red light. This is called Rayleigh's scattering. So physics here. On the axis that goes up, we're talking about how much of sunlight is scattered. And then on the horizontal axis, we've got the wavelength of the light in nanometers. So you notice that the redder the light is, the less it scatters. That's why you see sun looking red at sunrise and sunset. Don't look at the sun. Because the red light powers through the atmosphere, but the blue light hits the top of the atmosphere and just scatters everywhere. And that's why the sky is blue. So when we do our changing of the 40,000 streetlights, we are hopefully going to use full cutoff shielding. That's the one on the right. Full cutoff is just a 45-degree angle. That means as you're walking up or driving up to the light is not directly in your face. It's not directly hitting your eyes. It's shielded, and only if you're standing under the light looking straight up will you see the actual LED. LEDs are very directional. And so it's very important that you shield them so people don't get the full force of them straight into their face. So it's a battle. I don't want to frame this in war terminology. I should change that. It's a fight. Here's the stages. Awareness. That's the most important one. That is the one that we have to do first. We have to educate people. You have to tell people about this. Second, you can't really do it without funding. It's hard to do all the steps you need unless you have some funding behind you. The advertising talks, buying popcorn when you show a light pollution movie, or there's all kinds of things you could use the funding for, but that really is a stage right after education. The research is necessary because unless you have something to say, the rest of it doesn't matter. I could stand up here and I could spout a bunch of facts and figures, and light pollution is increasing at twice the rate of population growth. That's terrible. There are places in the world where there is no light pollution, and yet we're still getting satellites streaking across the sky, which increases the light in the middle of nowhere places by about 10%. That's coming. We have about 1 million requests to put satellites up that are going through the various agencies in different countries. So research very necessary to keep the people who are on the front lines talking about it, having something to say. And regulation and legislation. I'm not sure in New Jersey how many little municipalities there are, how many larger aggregate groups there are, counties. But in Pennsylvania, there are close to 2,000 municipalities. So there is no way you're going to go person to person, mayor to mayor to city council, and have them understand and then put through the legislation. I think this needs to be done at a state level. It's great to do it at a smaller level and show people that it works, but then ultimately, I think we have to do this at a larger level. So here's some easy to do research and data that you can collect. I went around in Pittsburgh with my iPhone, downloaded an app for $1.99 called Dark Sky Meter. And you hold it up to the sky and you push a button and it takes a reading of how bright the sky is on a clear night. And you can see it really varies. And there are places in the city of Pittsburgh that are like a suburban sky, not an urban sky. And it's interesting because any light pollution map you look at from a satellite, it's just a big swath of color. Like all of New Jersey is one color. But when you go down to finer and finer details, no, there's some really beautiful dark places, even right around you. Another thing that we did with our grant money was buy some drones. This is a Mavic 2 Pro. Why is this good? Well, for one thing, some of the pictures were phenomenal. But a picture's worth 1,000 words. You could show people all the wasted light that's going up. And like we said in the beginning, you know, it's so much. It's like $3.3 billion is wasted, just light going up to light up the undersides of birds. And you don't need to do that. If you stopped doing just that, you could save a lot of money and reduce our carbon footprint. So some of the words of advice come from people who have been here before me. Obviously, you always start with yourself. Whenever you're trying to make a change, you need to be on the front line of that change. Is your house dark sky compliant? Are your lights shielded? So the thing that we're looking for is lower temperature, so it looks towards the amber end of the spectrum, so it doesn't scatter as much, and it's friendlier for animals and plants and people. Not blue. Shielding and lower wattage. Use just the light you need. Sure, light your steps. I don't want you tripping. Sure, light the walkway and your entryways. Just don't light your neighbor's window. So look yourself first and then start small in your neighborhood. So here's my look to myself. This is CMU. This is Carnegie Mellon University. It's one of the brightest places in the whole city. I'm sad to report. Tennis courts. The blue thing is a library. They even changed the street lights around town to be bright white lights instead of that you see some of the reddish orange colored lights. Those are the older ones, not LEDs. And so I did start here, and we did get Carnegie Mellon to sign on to turning off all the decorative lights from midnight to 6 a.m. for bird migration season. And then they realized how much money they were saving, thousands of dollars, and they're going to keep those lights off all year round during not just during bird migration season, but from midnight to 6 a.m. So I'm super happy. But one thing about drones and stadiums, you'll see this over and over. I love taking photos of stadiums from above because then you see immediately what your resolution is. So here's some things you can do. Large, medium, small, it all helps. And we need a mix of all kinds of things. If you only have a minute, you can talk to somebody. If you have a couple of hours, you could do something bigger. If you have a day, great, but everything counts. It's really important. So here's just an example of some things you can do that, you know, maybe they would take you a little bit of time, but not too much. And you're doing the first one right now. Good for you, everybody. Give yourself a hand. I especially like the buy a piece of space art. That does happen. People look at that and there's something on your wall and they're like, ooh, look at all those stars. And you're like, yeah, you want to see that? Let me tell you how. So here's an example of just pictures showing the 1,000 words. Look at all the bugs around the lights that are too blue, not the redder light. It's like a vacuum. It's a insect vacuum. Here's some medium steps you can do. So you can invite a speaker. Go, you guys. Find people that are in your area and do something together. Take a full moon walk in the park at night. See what it's like to go to a city council meeting. And you can sign up. They'll let you talk. They have to listen to everybody as long as you sign up in advance. Are you good at writing? You could write a little note. Another thing is you could write a letter to the editor. Every time there's a light pollution article somewhere, especially local papers, you can write a letter to the editor about an article they just printed. And those almost always get in. I found that talking to people at the hardware store, yeah, they don't seem to know a whole lot about it. If I say, can you show me your dark sky compliant lights? They're like, what is that? A lot of times. So this is the next thing we did after the drones. It's hard to do the drones, especially in the winter. The batteries don't last very long. But here we put a camera underneath a Cessna and flew it across the city in a lawnmower pattern, back and forth and back and forth. And again, me with stadiums. They're all brightly lit up and no one's around. Parking lots are empty. It's really impressive. This didn't work because the airplane couldn't fly low enough, slow enough, and know where it had been good enough to do that lawnmower pattern. I think if you hired somebody to cut your grass the way our pilots went, you would not pay them. They were like a strip over here and then a strip over there. It's not really ideal. And here are some big steps you can do. These are large. These need a committee, a group of people. So you're wonderful that you look how many people are interested in this. Reach out to some of the other people that are here at the meeting. So I've given a light pollution meeting, trick-free food, just telling you, which goes back to funding. Writing grants, they're fairly easy to get small grants. If you want a grant for free food for a meeting, literally, you know, Kmart, Walmart, Target, those kinds of places will give you free food. They especially like if you're a nonprofit. So being a Sierra Club group. Visiting your senators and congressmen, I went as an astronomer. And so that was all planned out. The American Astronomical Society made all the reservations with all the senators and congressmen and gave me maps of where to go and cross from this building to that building, waiting in lines and through security clearances. And it was impressive. They spent an entire day at NASA headquarters telling us how to talk to the politicians. So that was really interesting. You want to do very specific things, and you don't want to talk about yourself. You want to talk about them, how it will impact them, how it'll make them popular, how they will get press for this if they put forth some dark sky ordinances, and how it'll impact their voters and people in the community. Can it bring in jobs? Is there a lighting company that does good dark sky compliant lighting in your area? Is there a particular builder who is on board with this? They want to hear about local, what's going on right there for them. And that's, you know, I try really hard not to make things about me, despite the fact that I have a website that's all about me. I had to. I couldn't keep track of all this stuff. I had to have somewhere to like put it. And as long as I'm making a list, I made a website. I've probably done about 50 talks in the last 6 months. So it's a lot. This was one of the first ones that I did. This is right when I started. And I thought, well, I know everything now. I've thought about this for a minute and a half. I'll just give a TED talk. You can watch it. I wouldn't say it's very good. It was the first time I was up on a stage like that. So one of the things is not reinventing the wheel. There are organizations that already do this. The International Dark Sky Association has been working on this problem for many years. They are really, really, really nice people. And I say that because I'm not a really, really, really nice person. I go out and I look for people who are doing bad lighting, and I want to embarrass them. And I want to make a point that hotspots in the city, why do you need that many watts for what? Your gas station? I'm not super nice, but the International Dark Sky Association thinks, and they've been doing this for many years with, great success. Let's celebrate the dark. Let's celebrate the places that get it. Let's give them awards and make them dark sky places and announce it and celebrate it, celebrate the dark. And that's it's a good way to do it. But there are many groups that are on board with this. I haven't found too many of the green building groups that are on board with this, but I'm working on it. I'm trying very hard. Amateur astronomers, much more on board than professional astronomers. So I think of professional astronomers as the canaries in the coal mine. When the light pollution got bad, they all picked up their telescopes and left. And no one noticed. They just kind of stopped chirping around wherever they were. And now if you Google abandoned observatories, oh, there's so many pictures covered with ivy. The building's still there, the telescope's gone. Park department and environmental city council people, very important. And people that own a lot of the forested land and the forest rangers, trail clearers, really wonderful group of people. So reach out to people that are already doing something. So I wish that I had bought a light shielding company a while back when no one was making shields for lights. There's not a lot of pushback about light pollution mitigation, making cities' skies darker. But one of the things that I continuously hear is crime will go up and safety, traffic accidents, that part of it. What we're advocating is simply not shining the light up. So if you already have lights and you don't want to buy new dark sky compliant lights, you can buy shields for lights. All the studies have shown, except for one terrible study in New York City, they've all shown that there doesn't seem to be any, you can't say definitively one way or the other from all the data, whether dark sky compliant lights in a city are better or worse for safety. Nothing, it shows there's no correlation. Or sometimes there's even an inverse correlation. That if something is really dark, nobody robs it because they don't want to be the only ones out there with a flashlight shining their light around. And what if you have motion sensors? That's the best thing if you're worried about safety, not to blast light everywhere. They call them security lights, and I call them insecurity lights because you're just like so scared, just light the moon. So the thing is to put a motion sensor on. So when I talk about colors of light, it's always so different. Astronomers know this, that blue means hot and red means cool. That's what stars are. But the marketers of these lights call the very hot ones cool blue lights, and the very cool temperature ones warm colored lights. And so I do understand if you're confused, because it's confusing. Why would they do that? So just so you know, these lights are not at those temperatures. Those are called color corrected temperatures. That's the temperature it would be if it was a star. But like, none of these are the temperature of stars. LEDs are not really very hot. They have a few metal veins on top to disperse some of the heat, but they don't operate at hugely hot temperatures. And they're all about the same temperature if you put a thermometer up to the bulb, but they call them different temperatures to depict the color that we're talking about. So you want the ones that look like this, that look like fire and red sunsets. That's what you want at night. You don't want day at night. Night and dark has value. It is how we all evolved on this planet. Every part of life on this planet evolved with dark nights and bright days. And here in 100 years, we're changing that up, lighting the night thousands of times brighter than it was. It's no wonder that everything is being affected by it. So our bodies, as the night comes on, we produce a hormone called melatonin. And doctors are studying this now, and there have been many results, but we have all seen how careful doctors are about stating anything definitively, even when the results are overwhelming. So if your melatonin production is reduced from having night lights on or lights shining in your window, then low melatonin has been linked to diabetes, cancer, heart disease, the hormonal cancers like breast cancer and prostate cancer, obesity, insomnia, obviously, mood disorders, especially in teenagers. So you don't want to suppress your melatonin. You want a healthy night's sleep. Don't look at screens right before you go to bed. And if you do, use the apps on your phone, or you can get them on all your screens to turn the screens to an amber color, and then you'll be fine. But notice this. So we're looking here at wavelength across the bottom and brightness up the side. And the blue light, which can actually be bad for your eyes, it can lead to macular degeneracy. You don't want blue light in your eyes all the time. That and the typical white LED lights peak at about the same place, and it's also the same place where melatonin suppression is right there also. So all of those wavelengths, 440, 452, 464 nanometers, those are all like clumped together, and it's what you don't want. You don't want to have blue light at night for your health and for the environment. So things that I learned about getting people on board with this. It takes effort. This communication, you have to keep people communicating. Luckily now we have things like Slack and Discord and Twitter. You can use technology to keep people together and communicating, and keep bringing back the idea, why are you here? What are you in this for? What are you fighting for? Dark nights, stars, healthy ecosystems. The nighttime ecosystem is so disrupted by artificial light at night. So you want to keep people coming to the table and listen to the stories that they have. And I can't wait to hear your stories in the Q&A, just saying. But also let them know that they're not just a body in a chair. They bring something to the organization. Everybody has something that they're really good at. And I didn't know that mine was not art. This was the first painting I ever painted, which I sold for $25. I was so pleased at myself. This was to talk about an event we were doing where we turned off lights in Pittsburgh for Earth Hour. This was back many years ago, but we turned off 132 building signage, rooftop signage. And it was, the point of it was to like flick the lights like you're in a kindergarten classroom. You're flicking the lights just to get their attention. And then when you get their attention, then you tell them your message. I love thinking outside the box when it comes to community outreach about this particular thing. We did a walk for science. We participated. We had a big booth and walked around carrying signs. We have done everything we could think of that was fun. We wanted to do fun things because that's the way you get a lot of people on board. So Astronomy on Tap is actually a national thing. Same with Two Scientists Walk into a Bar and Pint of Science. These are all in bars. You go in a bar and you have a big sign and it says, "Ask me anything, I'm a scientist." And people come up and talk to you. And of course, what do you talk about? Light pollution. Any kind of opportunity. If you think of something, it's wonderful, we should do it. But then again, here you go back to the grants. What if the thing you think of is, I want to make a children's book about light pollution? Oops, there's my dog. I'm gonna put my dog 1 second and I'll be right back. So put him over here. And should we give you a picture to look at while I'm gone? Okay. There you go. So one of the things we did was we did a bunch of art gallery shows because I thought, what are we good at? We're good at taking beautiful pictures of the night sky, and let's make some art. And so people came in and they wanted to do spacecrafts, we called them, crafts that had to do with astronomy. And while we're doing the craft, I was there telling them about light pollution. Hundreds of people. I was really pleased with this. This worked so well. I curated 3 space art galleries. Art and activism, they go together because art, it's a message, it's a story, it's emotion. So you feel what is going on, and that makes it memorable, the whole story. So also, while I was home, remember back at the beginning, I was home for decades with kids. While I was home, I wrote a lot of science fiction. So, and I also started this anthology that comes out every year, and we switched off editors. So I started it, I did the first one, and then we switched off. We're on our 13th editor now. But I took it back because I wanted stories about light pollution. And so like one of them is Peter Pan comes down to Earth and he gathers up the lost boys and he looks for the second star to the right and straight on till morning. But of course he can't see it because of light pollution. And so people around the world sent me creative stories about light pollution and stars, because we have to savor the stars before we can save them. You have to see them, you have to know them, enjoy them, feel that comfort and familiarity with the stars, and then you save them. So art and art galleries is one way to go. That was one of the things that I tried that really, I think, worked very well. And if you have an in this area, then certainly you might want to put a little wedge in there and try to get this to happen. Art, it crosses boundaries because it's so visual and memorable. It focuses down like a little lens on the problem. It penetrates, and this word was supposed to be apathy. Got to change that. And the last one, once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's the one about light pollution. Once you see bad lighting, oh, it just kind of wrecks a lot of things. Not saying fireworks. Fireworks are 1 hour a year. They're okay. But, it wrecks a lot of things once you realize what harm all that light is doing at night. So we did lots of art, lots of crafts. And the thing is that it's beautiful. The night sky is just astonishingly gorgeous. So it catches people's attention. It's really easy to get them to come up to you and talk to you if you have a picture behind you of the Milky Way. And this is some of the things we learned at the NASA training. Use their name, listen to what they say, and then it's called reflective listening. Repeat it back to them. Paraphrase it, and then say, I hear what you're saying. You're saying that you have a neighbor that has a light that shines on your deck, and not only in one window, through the whole house and into your bedroom from the other side of the house. Wow. Repeat, nod. This is what they talked about. Eye contact, firm handshake. They were very careful to tell us how to talk to people. I like art because you're using their spaces, their galleries, their list of members. All you have to do is show up. Painting planets, spray painting planets, so easy. Little kids were doing it, and it comes out beautiful. That was one of the things. And while they're doing that, of course, I'm talking about light pollution. So there's a lot of points about light pollution. You have to find the one that resonates with the person you're talking to. So in this group, environment, it's really the one. More than health and heritage of gorgeous natural beauty of the night sky, I think environment. And then if you start to mix everything all together in the same conversation, it gets kind of jumbled. This is Bill Snyder's work here. He's one of the popular Pittsburgh painters. So we sometimes tend to forget all the tools we could use, and we have to get on board. So if all you have is Facebook, use Facebook. If you can tweet and Instagram and Tumblr, and you have a blog, whatever it is, technology can reach more people faster than you can just walking down the street. We have a petition now up on change.org. Mike Lincoln, who's the president of the International Dark Sky Association Pittsburgh chapter, put it up. And it just says, do you care about dark skies? And over 2,500 people have already signed it, which I'm very happy about. And we're trying to get one of the state senators, Carolyn Comita from Chester County area, to put some legislation on the books. And the more people that like that petition, the more she's interested. More gallery shows. I think that's fine. So the hard part here is to find who it is that doesn't want this to happen. And I don't get a lot of pushback. I really don't. Whenever I talk about light pollution, nobody says, well, I like my light pollution. You can't take that away. Like, I don't get that. But people are afraid of the dark. And everyone seems to have the idea that the brighter it is, the safer they are. Actually, they're just brighter targets. I don't know how people can't get past their fear with actual logic, but it's tough. That's a tough one. And especially, we're in a Sue Happy nation. I was looking at some stats, and the United States has 84% of the lawsuits in the world about lights and light pollution. So businesses are afraid. They're afraid somebody's going to sue them if they're not bright enough. Well, what is bright enough? Bright enough is safe. You can walk, you can see, you don't trip. But if you're in a country where people get sued a lot for something, it makes it very hard for them to understand that there is a level beyond which it doesn't help you be safer. There's a certain level, and then if you keep going brighter, 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 it doesn't change how safe you are. So they also think that they're more like a gas station on one corner, a gas station on another corner. This one gets brighter because they think, oh, well, if I'm not as bright as that one, maybe people will think I'm closed and they won't come here. So they just like, it's like light wars. This one brighter, 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 brighter. I want to try to not to do that. And when you're walking down a beautiful street with lots of shops on each side, you want to make the light in the street a little dimmer so people can look into the shops and be like, "Ooh, look at that restaurant. I want that dress." And they want to see in. If you make the light in the street so bright, all they're seeing is like a mirror. They're just seeing themselves. They can't see into the businesses. So you have to be very careful about that. And also politicians, it's not only that they're short-sighted, but they're not sometimes in power very long. So they have a lot to learn in sometimes a year or 2 or 3. And it's hard for them to learn everything they need to know. This was a fun thing we did. Needle felting. I don't know if you know what that is. You take a barbed, sharp needle and you poke wool into something, and then it felts. It makes felt. So pretty. We did needle felting planets. And so you can vote with your bucks. That's a big one. Don't buy things that are not dark sky compliant. Just be careful. The globe lights, yeah, they're pretty. The heritage lights. There are no good acorn lights. There are no good decorative outdoor lighting right now that I've seen. So don't buy it yet. Buy something that works to just put the light down on the ground where you're trying to light. Memorizing facts is always good. Memorize 1 or 2 facts. Sometimes that's all you need to get established that this person talking about. So you don't have to memorize the whole book. In fact, you don't want to wait until you know everything, because then you'll be waiting till the end of the universe. So you just learn a little bit and then go forth with it. So I went to Construction Junction and I bought these church pew boxes, and then I put IDA, International Dark Sky Association, flyers in them. I put Sierra Club flyers in them too. And people did. They came in and they took all the flyers from the art shows. So don't wait too long. We want you to, look back at what other people have done, but you need to go forward and not wait forever. It's just logical. Here's another one. Get the kids involved. People listen to the young. They're the ones who have lost the sky, and who took it away from them? We did. They're not the ones out there buying all these lights. So put their voices forward. I've been teaching a class at Carnegie Mellon this is the 3rd year, called Sky Glow, where we just introduce students to light pollution and then set them loose. And some of their ideas are just amazing. I'm really happy with that class. And we put it up on the International Dark Sky Association Pittsburgh chapter website. We put up all their work and posters they made and things they wrote and interviews they did with other light pollution advocates. So who are we talking to? Who do we want? If we only had a limited amount of time, who do you want to talk to? It's the mayoral level. It's city councils and mayors. That's the targeted audience. In Pittsburgh, the dark sky ordinances that were put into play are just for the city properties. That's playgrounds, that's all the facilities, the parks, and everything that is sitting on city property. So that's the zoo, the National Aviary. There's a conservatory, plants, greenhouse. These are big things, and they all have to follow the dark sky lighting, which the ordinances say going forward, if you put a new building in, if you change more than 10 lights at a time in a retrofit, then you have to make sure they're dark sky compliant. But a lot of the places are thinking about, let's get some shades on the inside. So when we're in here at night, we'll put all the dark room darkening shades down. They're thinking along the lines now. So the city thought, we'll lead by example. We'll do it first, and then we'll deal with ordinances for everybody else. And then the mayor got voted out of office. So we're starting up with a new mayor. But these are the people that you want to talk to. And hopefully there might be people in the audience that are in that group. So this is a kind of a weird thing. Your story, how you got into this, is like your origin story. Like you're a superhero, a dark sky defender, and you need an origin story. So this is my origin story. I went out west after decades of being east, and I noticed there were stars. Where did I go? I went to this Mars Desert Research Station in Utah in the upper desert, where it looked like Mars, and I lived like an astronaut for weeks in this little, like a fuselage landed, and 6 of us had to wear spacesuits outside, go through an airlock, ration water 5 gallons a day, eat dehydrated food, have total isolation. And we were studying the human factors of spaceflight for the Mars Society. So, and we did, how do you deal with isolation? Some of those things actually came into play. Some of those lessons we learned. It was interesting. But that was my origin story. That's how I started being so, fanatical about dark skies. So all of these things that you learn, share them with other people. Each person learn one thing and then come together and think about the solutions. And every time you learn something, kind of changes the direction a little bit that you're going to go. So you have to have that flexibility. You have to pivot if you can, reflect, refine, and have a plan that can move and be fluid the more you learn about the subject. That's really hard to do. So here's my last thing after I tried the drones and I tried the airplane. Then I went in a helicopter. This helicopter is like a toy helicopter. I was not a fan. We put 4 people in there and they had to weigh us to be sure this thing could take off. But I got great pictures hanging out of the helicopter and me in stadiums, right? So nobody around, nobody's even on the roads, nobody in the parking lot. What is this all lit up for? A picture is good. I'm going to do the city, not me. I'm going to get funding and hire a helicopter to do my city map and cover the whole 58 square miles because I need a before and after shot. For scientists who study anything, we'll have that before and after. Bird migration, firefly populations, algae and fish in the waters. We have eagles right off the rivers here in Pittsburgh, downtown. It's the kind of thing where I need to give people data to work with. And that's my goal there. So it's a long haul, and it's going to be a long haul, and we're in this and it's working. New York State has some dark sky ordinances that they're talking about and voting about. Massachusetts, for the whole state, dark sky ordinances. It is not stagnant. It is moving at a pace that I am so surprised at. And I'm grateful to all the reporters. This is good news. Fighting light pollution when it disappears at the speed of light. It's an earthquake and the lights go out. All of a sudden the Milky Way is right there. The stars are always above you and people are getting on board. We've gotten to a tipping point now, I think, where people know about this and people are happy to go forward and see it through. And our other goal with the map is to identify where there's a ring around the city where you can see the Milky Way if you go outside of that ring. I want to see that ring shrink when they change all these street lights, because then thousands more people will get to see the Milky Way. And it's one of my goals. I think I talked plenty long enough. So that was it for me. And I'm looking for questions.
Well, thank you very much, Diane. Before we move on to questions, Diana Ampierre from the National Sierra Club Grassroots Network for Dark Skies is also with us. Diana, I don't know if you want to say a few words, just want a minute of introduction.
Only very quickly, because the thing, this is what I want to see. The fact that you guys did this, and the peak, you had 106 people on this call, 106 Sierrans on this, like, it's beyond exciting. It's like literally beyond exciting. I can't even get the Florida chapter to do it yet. It's frustrating. So I am glad that you guys are still doing this. So the only thing I pointed out in there, and if you want to spread the word, John and Jonathan, there is when Sierra Club, as you know, when Sierra Club doesn't have like resources, staff that can work on a certain issue, you start this grassroots network team, right? And it's really meant to be volunteer-led, just like anything we do in Sierra Club. So I'm really, when I started that group, it was when I didn't work for Sierra Club. And I really want to make sure that it is in fact volunteer-led. So if anybody's really interested in getting involved, let us know, because I think there's a real strong potential for lead pollution issues to get more resources and for Sierra Club to be a really important player in this issue. And the last thing I'll say is, I kind of compare this to, we have many groups that love birds, right? That take care of birds, right? And sometimes having a healthy competition, is a good thing. And having lots of different groups, especially larger groups that have a lot of engagement, like Sierra Club. I think in a way it will help even organizations like IDA, because for a very long time they've been really the main organization doing it, which means that it's really hard for one organization to kind of be that good and bad guy kind of thing. So anyway, so I look forward to people engaging.
Well, thank you, Diana. All right, folks. John, I don't know if we have any specific questions. I know that Cindy has one here about finding resources that discuss the negative effects on migratory birds and other wildlife. Any really good, concise books that address that specific topic?
More than just books, there are a lot of papers that I noticed in the chat. Someone put the Sierra Club's light pollution statement, and down at the bottom are resources that you can look at for various and sundry different things. And I urge you to read that. That is so well written, and it's very strong, and it's concise. It says exactly what needs to be said.
Thank you, Diane.
I really love that.
Now, I know that Diana Ampere said that she doesn't recommend using the IDA model of lighting ordinance. It's going to be a significant update soon. Diana, when do you expect that update to come around?
I don't know if Diane, if you know the status on this, it's been like an ongoing debate. You know, I just want to let you know, like I serve on the IDA board. I have a lot of respect and I love my peers that are, that are involved. It's a really tricky ordinance because the model lighting ordinance, when they put it together, or at least the second version that they put together, was with input from the lighting industry. And there was just a lot of debate as to whether how strong and efficient it was. IDA has a kind of acknowledged that they have on that, but I really don't know the latest. So Diane, I don't know if you heard anything from the other meetings that they have had.
Just end the show. There we go. You know, when you work with the lighting committee, they're doing everything by committee, and they only update things every decade or two, and then their job is to light things, you know, like it's a lighting organization. I really don't think that they do a good job when it comes to this. They a lot of times post minimums, and instead of the engineers going to the minimum that they post, they'll be like, oh, well, that's the minimum, so we'll go 10 times higher. That must be good. You know, like,
Diana, I'm confused of what you're saying. We're asking about the lighting ordinance. Do you have any idea when it's actually going to be finalized, right? The recommended one from the IDA?
oh, the model lighting ordinance.
Yes.
No.
MLO.
Yeah, I don't know when that's going to be done, but I'm
I think
waiting because it's.
Could you use your influence to try to get it done? Because we're interested in getting something working and we want to make sure to use the best.
You know what I would just thinking out loud, Diane, and I'm wondering whether maybe this is something that would be a really good way to team up. Is one thing that I had suggested at one point, didn't quite go through, is it's really hard to come up with like one perfect model lighting ordinance, right? You know, and I say that from the perspective that if you're in downtown Miami, the perfect lighting ordinance may be different than if you're in, say, rural Kansas or something. But we have, you know, the people that have been working on this stuff for a very long time, they have ideas of which cities, which either urban or rural communities have done pretty extraordinary good ordinances for where they're at. And it would be good at least to have a library of like, you know, these are really good ordinances for cities, for, you know, a state level, point out what are the strongest parts of those ordinances or laws. Because I just think it's, you know, IDA has not been able to do what we, you know, and I don't blame them. Again, you got to understand, because they're the main organization that has been working on this. It's really difficult when you are trying to both be the good and the bad guy, right? Okay. But they're you know, that's why I wanted you also to connect with Diane, because I really love the fact that she's trying to do this in an urban area, right? And we have so many places like that in New Jersey. So I'll be curious, you know, like, for example, the upgrade that they're about to do. Have you been able to like influence the you know, the lighting levels, color, you know, the color temperature they're going to be using?
It's complicated.
Okay.
First, there was a lawsuit by someone who didn't win the bid, and that just got dropped in March. So nothing moved forward for a while. And then the new mayor is in, and then it changed from the Performance and Innovation Department to the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure to the Department of Public Works.
Well, I understand these are things maybe we can take offline because it's a little bit too
Yeah, I guess nuanced,
detailed,
but I think
too granular for the folks listening on. But I think
and
the
I think
suggestion
this is a
Diana is
really
good.
good topic for maybe the, you know, for that other group to like, how could we get resources to answer these questions.
Yeah, thank you. Now, I know we have two people with their hands up. Kip, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I did. Diane, we're at a very special moment, I think, in space exploration. I mean, it's so amazing to be able to put up some people in a spacecraft and have them dock with some other people already up there. I mean, how amazing can it be? Is there anything in front of us that excites you, that you think is in front of us to be opening up a new world of space? And, you know, I mean, you must get excited when some of these things happen.
So I wrote science fiction for all those years too. So all
Yeah,
my
no, it's real.
already is like talking about that. We are going to go to Mars. We, you know, someday humans are going to be on Mars, right? Nobody doubts that. So whether it's in our lifetime or not, I don't know, but we're planning it. And one of the things that I think is amazing about, you know, spreading out through the solar system is we don't want to take all the bad things that we're doing on Earth and just make them everywhere else too. So people are really talking about what kind of governance would happen on another planet and how we would do this right. It's from a social level. And I'm kind of interested to follow those discussions. It's not my area, but I find that fascinating that people are talking about that.
Thank you. Thank you, Kip. Styra, what's your question? Styra, you have to take your sound off of mute. There you go.
Okay, well, I'd like to go back to something very practical that did come up. It would be, because there are so many of us who have been who are interested, and I have been for years, ever since the night sky disappeared when the superhighway, that's about 5 miles away from where I live, put lights everywhere. That was the end. We used to see the Milky Way until then. And, but we need something practical to do. And so even though there are all these complications, nothing is ever perfect, it would be very helpful if you could point us to even a few night sky ordinances in towns, cities, whatever, it doesn't matter. Just a few examples of something that has already been passed and that has aroused some satisfaction.
Yeah,
For
I
example,
agree with you, Styra.
and I want something practical to do. I do also want to say that I don't know how many people go up to Maine, to Penobscot, to Bar Harbor. Every month they have a dark night. It's also when the moon is not full. And you can gather on the beaches there and see this incredible view. It's almost scary. And of course, most people have never seen that. So that's very effective. And it seems to me that that could be something we could ask. You actually mentioned that, ask our towns on a township level, I think even would be helpful to have one night a month when the lights are off In any case, I want to go back to my original ask. Even one or two ongoing, presently in effect nighttime ordinances, please let us know where they are and what they say. Thank you.
Thanks, Styra. And Styra, these are really good questions on your part. And if you're interested in joining our committee to help write up the legislation, we can gather that, you know, we need.
I am, but you have no idea, ask Cindy, you have no idea what other things I do. I don't think
That's the blessing of it. I always ask the people who are the busiest because they're the people who actually do the stuff.
I know. Well, I won't absolutely write it off, and I will stay in touch because it means a great deal to me, and it has for many decades.
Very good. Thank you, Styra. Thanks for your good question. So, you know,
2 places, I would just say Flagstaff and Tucson. Look at the ordinances there. They're using phosphor converted amber, which has a coating on the outside so that any blue light is changed into amber through the phosphor coating.
that's Flagstaff and where? Denver?
Tucson.
I can't hear that. Tucson?
Tucson.
Okay, very good. Yeah, and if
And the thing about their ordinances is they're enforced. That's a big thing. That you can have them and nobody pays attention, but these are enforced, and that's wonderful.
Good, good.
Somebody,
Mhm.
somebody likened it to music at an article I just read that, we spend so much time with music, all the notes and the pitch, and it's got to have the right timbre and the duration of all the notes and silent pauses in the notes. And then with light, it's like you're just blasting a trombone all night at one note. Like
Yeah,
it's,
but the trouble is, music is a very good example in the opposite way. You can't go anywhere. You can't go shopping. You can't do anything without having music, and it's a pain.
but there's also laws against sound. And if you have a problem, you call somebody and all of a sudden your neighbors have to turn off their music, but you can't, there's nobody to call to say, turn off your light.
Hmm.
You
Thank
need
you.
the,
I want to put my hand down. I don't know how.
That's fine. No, we're right with you, Larry. I think there's Rex Parker. He would like to speak. Rex? I don't know if Rex is still there. Okay. Rex, I guess we'll hold off on you in a moment and we'll let Larry talk. Larry, what's your question?
Yeah, well, actually, it's a statement. Rex was probably going to say the same thing I'm going to say. Rex is the director of the Amateur Astronomers Association of Princeton, and I'm the assistant director. And Rex was actually instrumental in passing the ordinance in Hopewell Township a couple of years ago. So he is a definite resource in how to get this kind of passage of an ordinance done.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, as I mentioned to Steyer, Larry, if you and Rex want to join the committee and help facilitate us, you don't have to do all the work. You tell us, give us the marching orders. We'll try to get, I think what we need to do is we just need people just to, be advisors and just, pat us on the back and motivate us and, try to get it accomplished. Just like, Diana,
Hi.
Pierre is getting Diana Turncheck to get those lighting ordinances to us, she cracked the whip and hopefully things will happen. Go ahead.
Looks like Rex
Hi,
is back.
Jonathan, can you hear me now? I'm sorry, I was
Yep,
muted.
I can hear you now.
Hi, Rex Parker here. As Larry said, we in Hopewell Township have a state-of-the-art for New Jersey lighting ordinance that is relevant to everything that you guys have been saying. I would be happy to send you a PDF copy of our current ordinance by email tomorrow or tonight or tomorrow. I have a couple of contacts that I could send it to, but maybe if you send me yours, you could distribute it as you see fit.
Oh, that'd be great. What's your email? Well, I don't know if you want to just, I have the easiest email in the world if you just want to send it to me. It's my name and my name. So it's johnwall@johnwall.com. So it's
John Wall at John Wall. Great.
Yeah, it is
yeah,
John without an H, just, johnwall@johnwall.com.
johnwall@johnwall.com. Perfect. I'll send it to you. I'm on the planning board and environmental commission on my other hats when I'm not doing astronomy. So this is something that was a long time in coming, but we actually passed the original ordinance way back in the early 2000s. But only 2 to 3 years ago, just before COVID, we updated it to be more compliant with LED technology, color temperature, 2400 Kelvin, full cutoffs, all the things that Diane has been talking about tonight. There are some towns in New Jersey, it's sadly not all of them, but Hopewell Township is one. So I'll send you that and feel free to distribute it because we agree if we could get more townships, get more people to go speak to their environmental commissions and planning boards. That's the route that you want to take. It's the planning board that ultimately in most Jersey towns that has the power to develop such an ordinance. And it of course has to get passed by the town council, but the planning board is where it's at, as well as the environmental commissions.
Now, did you take before and after the implementation of these ordinances, like a light meter reading and see if there's been any changes for the positive for the ordinances?
Well, some of the light pollution websites that were alluded to tonight do have data that gets regenerated year after year from the satellite reflectivity studies. So, that's where you'd really want to go. I don't think we could, I considered doing what you said, but I don't think we could adequately sample the locations. There's too many variables involved to come up with really reliable data. But I would say we can see a gradient of light pollution fall off as we go north from about the center of Hopewell Township around the town of Pennington, as we go north into Hunterdon, where many of you guys are, through the Amwells and up. There's a distinct fall off, a gradient in the degree of light pollution. And there's no doubt in my mind, it's because at least half of Hopewell is relatively dark and the Amwells are dark. And it has a lot to do with the ordinance. I don't want to say everything is due to the ordinance. Part of it is open space preservation and minimizing development. And all these things that Diane was talking about are absolutely true. So anyway, I'll send that on and feel free to distribute it. Consider it a model ordinance. And if it helps anybody speak to their planning boards and town councils and environmental commissions, then so much the better.
Well, thank you, Rex. That'll be wonderful. Diana, Pierre, I know you have your hand still up. I don't know if you want to mention something.
Yeah, I was going to say two quick things. One is that one good thing to start with is to look at your current ordinance, because it's very likely that even what you have right now, there's no code enforcement going on. And so that's one thing that I've heard from, people that are like dealing with this thing is that, they sometimes they go and they make improvements on the lighting ordinance, but even what they had before was never enforced, right? So there, I don't know what the solutions are on that, because you don't have a lot of code enforcement people that drive around at night. But maybe just having even a place where people can report, every time that you see a really horrible lighting that like, there's no freaking way this is legal. You can help to help report those things. I think that's really important, because I know that I've been hearing definitely a lot of people say, well, we could make a good lighting ordinance, but who's going to enforce kind of thing. And the second thing, there's a few of you that I think put something in the chat.
Diana, I think we lost you. So when we get back to you, you can repeat what you're saying after when you mentioned the chat. But we just have a few minutes to go. And we didn't really touch on the how it's the false dawn at night imperils our health. And they're doing more and more studies on our fight-flight systems, how it impacts on our REM and non-REM sleep, how it the disturbance of our metabolism, where they actually say is just even a street light glowing through your windows at night, just that soft glow. Yeah, you could probably have a good night's sleep, but they estimate that you probably put on another 11 pounds worth of fat on your body due to the stress in your sleep. Because your metabolism isn't able to process it properly. I think that was recently out of an NPR article that was that came through. So there's plenty of research on how that's impacting. And of course, we didn't talk too much on how it's disturbing the animals and the reproductive activities at night. We are truly approaching a silent spring, not just from the chemicals that are coming in our systems, but even because the light pollution is disturbing the endocrine systems, the reproductive cycles, the insects are getting confused, the migratory animals are getting confused. So we really have to start addressing this issue ASAP. So with that, I don't know. I think Steyer, you have your hand up. I don't know if that's because you can't get it down or if you
No, I just wanted to say it's true about night like disturbing humans, but we as humans can do something about it. You can have night protecting curtains. You can get masks and all that. I would rather be, and people who are opposed to spending any kind of extra money are going to say that. Let's focus, in my view, on what it does to animal and to the environment, because people have ways of mitigating it if it's really a problem.
Right. Well said. And of course, humans are self-centered. So if we could appeal to the fact that it's impacting on their children and their grandchildren as well.
Well, that's true.
Motivate them to turn off their front lawn lights after 10 o'clock at night. All right. Well, thank you again, everybody. you know, Diana, you're very thoughtful. Presentation, I think was impressed a lot of people and maybe motivates the rest of us to try to get some ordinances passed. And I think, you know, the low hanging fruit, of course, is just for us to save our tax dollars and get our street lighting changed and ask our neighbors to maybe turn off the light after 10 o'clock. So folks, I just want to thank you very much. And again, keep in mind for our next presentations, he has again some exciting things coming up. Again, Thursday, April 21st to 6th, that's when Congressman Tom Malinowski will be joining us for a environmental town hall. May 4th at 7:30, we're having the Power Together. This is your chance to get to meet, now that Jeff Chittle's left, now we're going to have our new chapter director, Anjali Ramos, come in, and she's going to speak for a time, and our group are going to talk about things like we did tonight, about how we can work together on a whole sorts of projects, including the light pollution ordinances. And we'll keep you up to date on when we're going to be doing more outings as well. So again, thank you, Diana. And I want to say goodnight to everybody. Appreciate everybody's contribution with the questions. And again, time to turn the lights off. Good night.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diana and Diane.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.